Wake up, God damn it! Welcome to MARKETcast with Unk and Market Monk. Morning, P. How was your week?
Oh, really good. Just really, nailed a few things. I did not expect some of them, but just sort of struck while the iron was hot. Target was one that hadn't been on my radar, probably should have been, but just saw the flow there. Markets had a little bit more resilience and upside than I expected, but I didn't have some big bear thesis or anything. I just, I thought we might pull back a little more than we did. So yeah, really, really interested to see how that plays out. And big theme in my notes, I look for stuff right near a pivot and look for a reaction off of that. Keep the goals kind of modest. A lot of these stocks have run pretty hard to get where they are. So um, I talk about trading close to the vest. That I'm just going to kind of stay in that mode until we get into the new year and kind of see where we want to go from there.
Awesome. Yeah, it was. I'm glad I kind of mentioned 460 during our session last week because it was a probability, but it was not the high percentage probability to make that big of a move, in that direction. Um, if you follow the page, which I'm digging the way I can communicate through the page. Last Friday and this Friday, I dropped tickers. Those tickers were great Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You're probably still ahead in them. Um, Shout out to the $2 stocks. So those did well, and then our work. I mean, I could sit here and list everything from last week. Even from like Baba Cat, stuff that didn't have flow like Cenex, the casino. Do we have to talk about casinos, night
Yeah.
transportation? I mean, just a little bit of everything. You pretty much couldn't miss if you watched voice chat last week, made a plan, and were ready Monday. You pretty much couldn't miss. If you showed up Tuesday, watched it, made a shitty trade, said, "Oh, I got to do some homework," and tried to trade the end of the week, you probably didn't do well. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm same thing. Kind of you said, you're saying it now, which I mean, smiling ear to ear over here. Nvidia's 500, bro. My account looks good right now, so I'm not trying to
Yeah.
mess
Yeah.
this.
Right.
I'm not trying to mess this up. And we've been there for a
Yeah.
while. We've been there for a while, and still like trading. Our work's still good. I do think there's plenty of opportunities here that if you get a piece, you're good. I mean, my thesis is September to January. Shit ain't changed. Bottom's in here
Yeah.
somewhere on this stuff. Gonna be good next summer, so I'm around for that for sure. Um, I kind of noticed on the negative side, like news was like doing the pre-market move, and then the rest of the day on a lot of
Yeah.
stuff last week. So we kind of got into that, which I expect to continue this week. I think we're real similar, kind of hot beginning, and then kind of fade off. So just kind of the market we're in. Good news on the political side, though. Lots of it. I posted a little peace deal in Israel going on, and they kicked the budget can down the street. We really didn't get an argument on that. So um, it's almost like a no. They're back to no news issues, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think on the budget deal, the cynical side of me is that Democrats were only going to put up a fight if it was advantageous to them politically, and that goes for both sides, and it's not. I don't think there's any advantage to a government shutdown. If one side was going to clearly get blamed for it, I think you might see somebody push for that more. But I don't think the public has a lot of appetite to see that. So I think they're making the right move there. It'd be nice to get longer term deal or maybe even not have debt ceilings like most of the world. But yeah, I think I think it's a good outcome because it's not going to um, just inject a lot of fear into the market for some big jolt down, which is what could have happened. So I think it's good in that respect.
Yeah, just like the quick turn to not kind of, I don't know how else to say it, but feeling like there were no news issues, right? Like they weren't the
Yeah,
leading story all of a sudden. Like it's not part of the show now, which is good. I'd rather that not really be what moves the market. Um, in general, I'd rather have it, move off of stuff that we can read and follow along, and that's not so pivotal. Like stuff happens instantly and changes the situation. I don't really like that. I like the longer plays. So hopefully it's better for the market, and this was the the stuff that's going to kind of push us through the end of the year.
Yeah, and my read on it from and like traders are not the nation and or don't capture
Yeah,
the sentiment of the nation, but I think for a lot like the traders who really were kind of looking for that shutdown were already in bearish positions and just looking to recover. It's not even it wasn't even like oh I think I'm gonna look to enter some puts for March here because I think a government shutdown might happen. Like they were banking on the shutdown last time, didn't happen. We've obviously gone where we've gone, and so now they're kind of looking to for the Hail Mary to get out of these puts, and that's what a lot of the bearish sentiment on Twitter kind of seems like it's going to me. So when we talk about what not to trade, a lot of what not to trade comes out of people trying to not necessarily it's not like a penny stock. They're not trying to pump what they're in, but they're trying to talk themselves into this thesis being correct instead of cutting loose, reassessing, maybe even going long on some stuff. So that's most of the shutdown commentary from trader type people like that. That's what it's centered around to me, and that's gone for now. So
I think I maybe a little off topic, but back to the trader thing. I looked at flipping SPY contracts again. I think it might have been ODTs too, which made it worse.
yeah,
But just looked at the page, right? Like I bring up the page in here. We go to trade and you bring up the page. And like it's every flipping. I mean, what do you want? You want to spend $70, 69, 68, 65, 62. How much money you want to spend?
yeah.
What do you got? And I think that right there is why people trade this shit. I'm gonna be real.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's it. That's the only reason. And now you're looking at this matrix of numbers, and you either go up or down with the market as a whole, but you really don't find a niche or something that there's like no abnormal in here. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Salty's trying to do it. Shout out to him, real trader. He's trying to do it with his top 10. At least he's taking the top 10 contracts out of that shit, right? But for
Yeah.
the most part, that is the matrix. Like I don't know how you trade. I watched level 2 and that right there gave me a headache.
Oh yeah, I know, and that's why I mean to me, by and my oh by the way, my take on the contract pricing, when you see people alerting $40-50 contracts on SPY in the afternoon, I think the reason that they're doing that, kind of regardless of account size, is that they're out of settled funds for the day. So even
Yes.
if it's like if
Yes.
it's like $1,000 account or it's a $10,000 account, like they did their trades early, they don't have much left, and they're just looking to catch a little move
Yeah, whether
at
they
the
win or
end. So
lose, whether they won or
yeah,
lose, you're still
exactly.
out of
Yeah,
fucking funds.
they're just exactly yeah, and I mean it's like they want to stay on the casino floor the rest of the day, and so yeah, that's what they target are those $50 zero DTEs, where if you have some kind of conviction about a move on SPY, I mean really, there's no reason to play stuff that cheap to me. I don't see the appeal of it because they lose so fast. Like it's just you have so much going against you at that time of day. But that's my take on why they do that. But yeah, for SPY for me, reading flow, knowing how to do that, having a good track record for it. I think SPY flow is it's a little bit limited on what it can tell you. To me, you have to have some really precise levels in mind and not 30 of them, but like, maybe two that day that are some key levels. And then you see how flow responds once it gets there. But yeah, it's a messy read. And if these people can't read Piton and John Deere and, this, and even like AMD and stuff like that, like I don't see how you go from that to being able to make any sense of what you're seeing with SPY in flow.
Well,
Like
you lock on. I'll tell you, you lock on to one indicator or
yeah,
one thing, whether it's the fibs or it used to be with 1330 or the 921 EMA flop. You just find something. You find something like that. and that
Mhm.
is your signal to enter and exit. That's it. So it becomes
Yeah.
very one-dimensional, in my opinion. You become very, very one-dimensional, and your hit rate on that, it will probably never be above 60-70% unless it's just a directional market and you're playing the right way. You're not being stubborn.
Yes, and that that one direction in the market gives a lot of traders a kind of false confidence for when things do slow down or reverse or whatever.
Or
They
sideways.
stay
Or
or
sideways.
sideways.
That's the worst
Yeah,
of those guys.
they stay in that mode too long. And it's why there's so many of these weird perma bear mentality people right now because they
Yeah.
got burned, a year ago or 2 years ago, maybe. Like
Or
when the market,
just from the first of the year, they've been
yeah,
wrong, and then they finally gave that up because it did start pulling back, and they're like, "Look, see, I told you." But we're
right,
like
yeah, yeah.
literally at the 70% mark. If it's moved 0 to 100 on the year, we've only pulled back to like 70%. So you're still way behind on the bearish
Yeah, I
candles.
mean, what Nasdaq's up 35% or something. I mean, it's having it usually is green almost every year anyway, and it's having one of its better years,
Yeah.
which is why I talk all the time about what puts are more difficult, shorting's much more difficult, and I don't see why most people do it.
I know it's
It's
your least favorite stat, but
yeah.
year to date, well, maybe
Mhm.
not year to date. Oh, where's this one at? In in year to date, we were pretty flat in August. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
were pretty flat in August. So that that should just tell you right there, like the market is gonna kind of have pullback and consolidation, which I think we talked about very clearly.
yeah.
Just being healthy. So um, for me, getting started this early, we'll talk 460 for sure, but just getting started this early is the surprise part, I think. But how could you get caught off sides in the last since the first of the month? How could you have not changed your direction and got caught off sides? I don't understand that.
Uh, oh, I know. Yeah, I had somebody on Twitter tell me that Nvidia has been impossible for bears and bulls
Just
both.
move 25
And I'm like,
percent.
this month, I'm like, and I called it up. I'm like, call up any time frame. I did like 4 hours,
Yeah,
and I'm like, how is this complicated for bulls? I mean, the only way in which that would have happened is if so, like, you bought in and you're like, 400 is not going to break down, so I'm going to get in, and then that feeling like you get out at 430 or something, and it's like, and then it keeps going up. That disbelief that it's going to keep going, that to me, that's the hard part about it. When you're long, it's just that, and when you have that apprehension, it's usually best to just not trade that and just move on to something else. Don't let that FOMO kind of get you. But and there was plenty in the semiconductors that had safer entries than Nvidia, SMCI being one of them. So I think that's where the sector look really comes into it. But a lot of traders don't want to do that. They want to be, I'm a Tesla trader. I'm
yes,
Tesla and SPY. I'm
yeah.
I'm you know I'm Tesla SPY Nvidia. That's all they want to trade. They'll say it's because the contracts are so liquid and all of that, and that's fine. But I think you run into you don't get to take advantage of the broader market sometimes when you're like that. Tesla in particular can get pretty dicey even as SPY's going up, and that was a big theme for us for over a year now that Tesla has less of an impact on SPY now,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it's much more detached. So you're going to have days. Tesla was down 3% the other day, while the rest of the market was pretty healthy. So I'm all for having kind of your core stocks, but if you want to trade, especially if you want to trade every day, I don't think you can just limit yourself to a couple tickers like that and really do well consistently.
All right, we're about halfway through here, and I told myself start taking notes because I miss a lot of things I want to say. So I'm gonna clear my note list real quick. Um,
Yeah.
so TGT, I posted that in my page, like your post in my page. That's one thing I
Hmm.
love about my page because I think that really stood out. That was a great call. I wanted to double back on that one for you, um, for sure. These back to
Yeah.
these accounts though. These flipping accounts out here, bro. You got to be able to tell which accounts um, are withdrawing and which accounts are stacking. And I said it
Yeah.
better. I said it somewhere better, somewhere else better. But you got to understand the difference between those two people. If you're stacking, you're gonna have a tighter risk reward ratio. And if you're withdrawing to pay rent or your phone bill or whatever the case may be, you're withdrawing to use the funds. I don't want to sound hard on anybody, but you're withdrawing to
Yeah.
use the
Yeah.
funds. Your risk reward ratio sometimes is going to be all or rent. It just is. So you have to
Hmm.
understand that when you're following people like that. They're probably making the calls to get that momentum into what they're in. To be honest with you, I mean that's
Yeah.
still the whole point of shouting shit out on Twitter. Um, and poopy stocks. That's why I mean that's why I trade poopy stocks. Um, when Viperfish was in here, he talked a lot about Best Buy and I think Ulta,
Hmm.
because they're companies and you're like, oh, you get a feeling. Oh, I went to the store, but you can get just wrecked on those if you get hopeful about the company and you don't do any real research. So I try to trade
Yeah.
stuff that I don't know, um, that I'm not really in love with most of the time, unless it's really oversold. And that's to keep that out of there. If I'm going to buy something that I'm hopeful on, I'm going to DCA and invest in it and hold it for 4 or 5 years, and see how that goes. But day trading stuff you better have a lot of other reasons besides I like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Ulta. We're going to talk a lot about that one coming up, but real quick on Ulta, I traded that a lot in through the summer, right? And it was this breakdown at 480, and I got back into it at like 408. And there's been a couple times it was around there, and then kind of reclaimed that, got back to 480, broke down again. I completely stayed away from it on that last 408 breakdown just because it just it wasn't really responding to flow at that time. Flow wasn't just popping up. So I wasn't going to go back to some previous winner just because it was cheap. But now that it's back at 408, I'm seeing that setup I've seen before start to be responsive. I would rather buy it at 408 than 380 or 370, for that reason, because I don't have any history with it down there. And that is a perfect illustration of how we trade, I think, and how this works for us. This idea that yes, you can get some killer entry on some of these, but you're not entering according to why I liked the stock to begin with. So it has to come back to that for it really to work. And so that's a big part of our approach that I want to highlight every chance I can. So yeah, just wanted to bring that up because you'd mentioned Ulta.
You don't have. We're currently writing the curriculum before we open the college.
Yeah,
Little teaser there, little teaser.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
right, right.
but in that process, you are going to have some things that you go back and rework. And a big thing we always say, and here's where we're going to rewrite it right now, is previous winners. But it's
Yeah,
previous winners and previous winning setups. That's the
exactly.
important part. It's not just that, hey, I won on that stock. I won on that stock, and it is showing me the same things it showed me last time. And I
Yeah,
think that I didn't think I had to say that part, but I think we need to say that part. So previous winner, previous setup, or similar setup, because that's really what it is. I mean, when a lot of times in read the room, especially when the market is very directional, you'll see the same chart setup or the same like level bounce I'm looking for over and over again because it has nothing to do with the stock. It has, I
yeah,
mean, it's zero, and it's kind of yours same when yours, even those yours is set up a little different. You're like, I'm just getting a tons of sold puts here, right? Like you see a similar setup. Um, and that's what I'm trying to trade. I'm not trying to trade Tesla or anything that I like. I'll invest in that and put it over there and not think about it and smile when Nvidia's at 500. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, no, exactly. And what you were saying about the stacking and withdrawing thing, one of the reasons I focus on, like, I want to know the background of someone before I really, you know, care about what they say. And by that, I don't mean it's like, oh, he's young, he's clueless, whatever. Like that, it's not that. It's not that. I mean, I think the age thing um, definitely is a factor. I bring up the example all the time. There's a reason car insurance is more expensive for 19-year-olds. But it's, what are you building in your life to build some expertise in this? Or what is your background? And it doesn't have to be a background in finance. My background, in economics or anything like that. But I'm a researcher. I'm a careful reader. I'm actually a teacher. That's kind of a big one for me when someone wants to try to teach something. What is your aptitude or background for, for teaching at all? And just a lot of these people are essentially, they like gambling. They want to be a gambler, and I don't think options is the best space to be a gambler. I think that you want to professionalize yourself as a gambler. There's ways to do that in poker or even sports betting or whatever. But if that's kind of your whole thing, and you don't have a day job, or you're just trying to avoid a day job as much as you can, and that's just that's just your fallback. That to me is not a good recipe. It's not a good recipe to teach anyone anything, for sure. Because I think your mindset is just it's directed towards risk in a way that is unhealthy for most people. I'm not even going to cast judgment on the people doing it, but for most people getting into trading, it's not a approach to risk that is a good foundation for trading. That's my biggest issue with a lot of those people.
I mean, I know you a little bit, and you know me a little bit for sure. But my biggest problem with Twitter, I'll be upfront and honest. And it is kind of leaning to the age thing. It's because I have a 23-year-old. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why. Like, and I guarantee you, his account is bigger than half of those people out there. And I didn't give him a goddamn penny. And he's not a good trader. He doesn't day trade. He works and puts money and buys
Yeah,
things he believes in. Um, and which is what I just feel that's what most of those guys should be doing. I'll say it out loud. I'll say it out loud.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's what they should be doing because they'll be way ahead if they just did that. They went out there, picked up a shovel, got a job at the car lot or something, just something, got some experience, seen what they were good at, and just stacked a little bit instead of going out on Friday nights. They'd be all right, and they just don't do that. So that really, really bothers me with that. But personally, there's a ton of little things that every person does that I just like don't subscribe to in my life. And it's what makes me see things different, which I think has always helped me in the market. I mean, you've seen a lot of little things. Recent one, I just posted a picture of Red Robin, right? I mean, that's
yeah,
not. I did it with Crocs last year too, right? I mean, it's not
yeah, yeah.
random. It's not random. It's not
Right.
random. I mean, I don't post it because I just seen the line at Red Robin or I just bought a pair of Crocs. I posted it because the chart works too. But the point of that is I just see things odd. I just see things way different or with a different view. We've kind of had a couple, not run-ins, but like, don't lie to me, Unc, because I told you I don't use fucking DoorDash. I've never done it. And you're like,
Yeah.
come on. You're like, come on. But that's just the guy I am. And I don't, gambling's out the question. I work too hard for my money. I'm not risking it. I'll race you down the street or play a couple golf holes with you because I know I'm going
Yeah,
to win.
yeah.
Because I know I'm going to win, but I'm not betting on Tennessee or Kentucky today at parlayed with 4 rebounds. That shit ain't happening. I ain't got time to watch the game to watch my investment, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
that's another thing. How the hell all this goddamn time? They should be out there. I just go full dad mode on these guys. I really do. Like, you got all this time to tweet, go make $50. Like, it's just crazy
Yeah.
to me. So that's my thing. And that's who you're following instead of someone that has kind of, I guess, technically did that kind of stuff when I was young. I tried a bunch of shit. And, I grew up and had some real jobs and lost some real jobs and came back from '08 and all that good stuff. I just think that's
Yeah.
probably a little bit better source than somebody that's like, that knows NBA point guards well.
Yeah, and I think too, and last point on this for me, like the guys who aren't really trading, when you follow options closely, it's very obvious. And anyone who's been talking about like SPY 420p or 430p as a position that they're in right now and that they're adding to, the math doesn't add up on those contracts for anything. You'd have to go to March for that to make any sense at all. Because I'm like, from your first mention, this contract is literally 95%. So unless you just completely don't care about this money and it's from your subscribers, or whatever, um, this position is done. And I just think when you have a bullish thesis, bearish thesis, whatever, I think it's better to have, if the stock does this, I like it to do this, and that's what my whole readings of flow are built around. Typically it's like I want to see a test of this level. If it goes here, I'm gonna do this, rather than saying, I don't know, Nvidia 330, like that's my target. My target's 330 on Nvidia. Okay, what's gonna bring it there? How's it gonna get there? And a lot of them, they lack that. And conversely, everything they're doing, they got a lot of followers. They're good at social media, but it doesn't really work for trading. And I think breaking through that disconnect is part of what I'm kind of trying to figure out. Like exactly, it's like I post these 3 notes. They all did exactly what I said they were going to do.
Yeah.
Here they are, and it's like shrug. Oh well, do you even alert? That's what I get. So that part of it's confusing to me. Not that it's a big obsession.
To get off the topic, definitely. Do you into the, I'll frame it the other way. In the 2020, 21, a little bit 22 market, there was definitely. I mean, we were in one. That's how we met. Let's just be real. There was people that would just get cheddar flow. This was before whales even. Cheddar flow.
Yeah.
Trade ideas. What was another one? There's a couple other ones. They would just get those services and just make calls off of that. Try to build a room, $10 a head, and that they'd treat it like a job, and they really weren't trading. Do you still think those people are out there?
Yes, I do. And so they are. But it's like a new. A lot of those guys got washed out. The ones who were doing that.
They're failed traders. They're failed traders. They're not like people trying to come up.
Yeah. But a lot of people who are newer and they have the Twitter picture of Star Wars or an NBA player, or not to generalize, but like I just kind of see that a lot, kind of the cartoonish thing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, mine's a medieval manuscript of a monk, so whatever you want to say that is. But my point is like they're building it. They create a character, and they want to trade off that, and they'll just repost stuff from Cheddar Flow or whatever. Unusual Whales, I'm a big proponent of that. I think they're a little different. I think you can they provide more context for what's happening than most of those do. And that to me is kind of the key. The alerts on Unusual Whales, they've actually de-emphasized that greatly. It's a little bit buried in their site now. Whereas with the other ones, that is like front and center.
The header.
And a lot of times, those are alerts like that. The stuff that an algorithm's going to say, this is unusual, is often late, or it is that free money flow that we talk about. Like, you're way up on something, they're taking a shot, or they want to protect a position and they're going to kind of deeply hedge. It's one leg of a multi-leg trade. Like all that kind of pops up. And yeah, that kind of thing, like you can't really trade off of that very well. You try to use those alerts as entries, you're going to get wrecked. If you use it as your, I see this stock alerted a lot, so I'm going to figure out what's going on here. That actually works pretty well. And honestly is how I found Oxy, because I kept seeing whale alerts on it. And then I started to kind of look into what was happening. So,
you mean like
so
yeah, it over a course of time?
Over a course of time, yeah. I'm for like 6 weeks, I'm like they'd have an Oxy alert every other day, and And so I had,
I got a couple scanners I've built that if I see something for 3 days, I start looking into it. So
yeah,
totally,
yeah,
like that's what
exactly.
you do.
So that's why, like, I just think it's kind of part of your process. But the sentiment on Flow overall is turning pretty negative because people are getting frustrated with it because of this whole system of trading people tried to build around it that doesn't work. So then the assumption is Flow doesn't work, or it's too hard to read. And I like that people say that. It is hard to read, and people need to acknowledge that. And if you want to do it, you're gonna have to put a little bit more into it than just catching an alert and piling into to calls or puts. I think the the difficulty on it needs to be acknowledged and respected if people actually want to make it part of what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I think anybody that's a specific trader, because I could say the same thing with volume profile. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
there's a lot of guys that I think misuse it because it's the same thing. You just want to get one signal, right? Oh, look, I looked at this. I looked at this 1 hour chart. I got it right here, guys. It's 35 today, and they don't take the whole big picture 4 or 5 time frames into consideration, or the smaller
yeah,
time frames and cross reference them with the bigger time frames, so they're not getting an accurate read. Same with the flow, like you're saying. You get an alert from unusual wells. You're not going through and cross referencing everything like you do with your checks to get the proper read.
yeah,
So let's get into this spy guy. We did 50 here last
yeah,
week. I don't want to do that this week. Um, we were way off. This thing just took off.
yeah,
We were way off.
yeah. It did.
I mean, it just took off. 438 was the bottom. That was outside of our tops. So we kind of had it checking back into this candle, into this 430 test, which we really didn't get. Tuesday just took off after some really tight consolidation on Monday. I'm thankful it was all luck that I did mention 460 last week. I assume that's going to be the center of your universe this week.
Yeah.
Whether those guys take
He,
money or add more, right? That's what we're looking for.
yep. And yeah, I think the one thing I did say was that whereas I was just like, no chance we test those recent highs. I don't see it.
Yeah.
And that was at the beginning of the pullback that we had. And then last week I said, I'm a little towards maybe we do. I'm getting there. I still wasn't. It was like I think I said 30%,
Oh, you went from
35%,
like
something like that.
5% to like 40. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, yeah.
It was a big switch.
And that's and that's kind of what trading is to me, and particularly around SPY. It's kind of like trend and probabilities of what it might do, and being open to something against what you thought, and then changing. And for me, we read that pullback very well. And if you're going to short anything, knowing when to go ahead and take the win is so crucial.
Yes.
It's true with longs too, but particularly in these conditions that we've been in for about the past year, the way that these rallies get really ferocious and they don't stop. So you cannot stay in a short through all that.
Yeah, I like I said last week, kind of like I was set up a little bit well from Friday. Unk notes, everybody, unk notes. And then our plays did well, but I looked at SPY on Wednesday. That's when I looked at the matrix. I don't know what you want to call that. The order book for it. And I was like, there's just no way that we're not gonna have a little downside here at the end of the week. And we didn't. Don't get me wrong, we didn't have downside, but it definitely felt like it got overextended. Just real quick. I mean, if you look at the hour chart, it was pretty much the entire move was pre-market. Other than that, you have one consolidation level to another. So there's kind of a gap there now. Short-term guys are going to say there's a gap there now. But we're 50 or 40 here. No way we break out unless you're in saying it. I just don't see that. Nvidia does have earnings this week. There's that.
Well, you've got the Microsoft open AI drama thing that
Yeah, I seen you on
you know
that.
hit them. Clearly someone knew something because
Yeah.
Microsoft dropped over 1% on Friday, kind of with no reason. Um, and then my theory on it at the time was they just got a bunch of upgrades, kind of sell the news. It did go a little beyond that, but then the OpenAI thing kind of clarified what's going on there. So I think you're going to have some aftermath on that. Not necessarily that that's going to just tank Microsoft, but it was down 1% after hours. I'll be watching to see how much that recovers or if it gets worse tomorrow morning, and that's gonna
That's going to be a good conversation in the next session.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that any sustained drop there, just like Apple, is gonna pump the brakes on Spy a bit. It doesn't necessarily tank it, but it limits
What's going to
its
feel tanked
upside.
if it gets back in this gap, B?
Yes, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we're probably going to go 40, 42, 43 down to 440 like real quick. It'll be quick if we do check back. Um, that's
Yeah,
my only question, not if. I mean, I'm kind of giving my numbers up a little bit here, but not if, but is it Monday, Tuesday decent and then we bleed out Wednesday and Friday when no one's here? Or is it just kind of like a trickle out the whole week? That's my two theses right here. I don't think we can stay at
yeah,
450
yeah.
for 3 days.
And I want to after we do these numbers, I want to talk real quick about Thanksgiving week and a couple memories I have of trading
Yes,
Thanksgiving week.
yes,
Because there were a couple
yes,
interesting ones, and I haven't
yes,
been at this long, but they've all been memorable.
yes.
Okay, so yeah, so for Spy, you want me to go first?
I mean, I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll
Yeah.
go 435, 14 this one year, our 1 hour 20 day. I think that'd probably be the bottom or the strength bottom. I'm still looking for the uptrend to continue, but we need proper pullback. Um, and then I just got to pick a 50 number because that's where we currently are. What do we get on high 51 here? I'm gonna go 45307. 45307, 43514. That kind of is a weird jumble there, but
Okay, very good. So most of what's happening with the big open interest is still puts, and I had mentioned last time that the puts had flipped bullish for everything like 420, 430. And that is kind of largely still the case. The all the OPEX 1117 stuff has got to clear out, and we got to see where that went. So I actually, of all weeks, this is the hardest week to read
yes.
that from kind of a flow perspective. But yeah, so they're still selling a lot of puts. I will say that the 430 puts for December, mid December, still have a decent chance. But the strongest conviction I have right now is that we make a move back to 440 and test some of that, and it might not get all the way there. So I'm gonna say 440 166 is going to be my
Bottom.
bottom this week.
Nice. We got some divergence. Like it.
Yep. And for upside, I'm going with 454.61.
Pretty close up there, but you're a little above. And I'm
Yeah.
definitely below you. So that's. I'm the bear this week.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It could happen. I mean but I think that scenarios we mentioned, um, the bulk of that move is going to need to happen early, as in futures are going to need an ugly open to me for that to happen. Because I don't
yeah, we
know
don't we
what's
don't
on.
trickle out to my number. We do
Yeah,
not
yeah,
trickle out to my number. It has to have a bad day to get to my number.
yeah.
Um, if we trickle out, we are only getting to where you're saying that 440 test. I'm still going 39. I'm still underneath you there, by a buck or two, but we'd be closer there. That would be my trickle out number. This is my we have a bad day or two. no volume. My fans never come on, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
Um, a
what I
week.
was teasing about oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I like to review a little bit. So
Yeah.
this 200 death drop or my 1 year volume profile. Which one was better? Because we didn't drop much farther than that from that. I forgot who that was that said this was the end. The end is near here. But we did talk
Yeah.
about that a few weeks ago. Um, on the weekly, made him look like a bitch. All right, done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that
Was that the Snox
that
guy? Stock?
yeah, it was. Yep,
What
yep.
NBA guy is that? Blake Griffin or something?
Uh
Is that Blake Griffin?
no, it's not Blake Griffin. It's
Sorry, I'm old.
uh his no, his picture is of what is that? What is that guy? He played for the Heat. He was like the third guy with Wade and LeBron.
Oh,
I
Bosch?
can't remember. Bosch. Yeah, I think that's his profile pic. But his name's Blake. Yeah.
Skinny, bro. Skinny, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just 460. What do you see? And we'll hop out of here. I'm just curious about that
Uh
number. Activity?
yeah,
None?
so
Same?
um no, that so there's not a lot of activity in calls at that number, but what they're doing is they're walking puts up. So like they're stacking these sold puts even at 440 and a little 450. So that's kind of your platform. You launch off that. And then the stuff that actually pushes it that high, those are your zero DTE sweepers that come in and give it that extra push. But no, I don't see a lot of whale positioning at at 460 for calls. There's
What,
just not a lot of that happening.
what did you just say your launch pad was?
450.
Well, you said two numbers, but
I said the 440 and 450. Yeah.
okay. 444,
4
97.
440 for now. I'm seeing the beginnings of 450.
444, 97, best shelf on the 10 year.
And that splits the difference between what
That's
I'm seeing.
yeah,
And
that's
that's so common with us. Yeah.
yep. That's my launch pad is that shelf right there on volume profile. 100%. That's what I look for when I talk to this guy every weekend.
Yeah.
100%. All right, you ready to get to work, P?
Real quick
Yeah,
on
go.
Black Friday trading. So a
Don't.
couple of years ago,
Don't. All right,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Well, that my story is a couple of years ago. I completely botched my positioning going into that because we gapped down crazy on that Black Friday. But it just so happened that I had six UVXY calls. I don't even remember why I did. But if I had not had those, I would have woken up down like $1,000 or something, which was a lot. It's still a lot for me. But I ended up on the day up 850 just because I had that and learned a kind of a big lesson there. Because even like we gapped down so hard, stuff below pivots and all that, but there just wasn't the juice on Black Friday to turn that stuff around. No buyers were stepping in. Stuff just kind of bled out or parked. So like there weren't even any trades. If you're so you wake up down big that day, finding anything to trade your way out of it very hard. So I would caution people. There aren't a lot of days I say don't trade, but I think it's a day for managing some stuff maybe and looking ahead a bit in flow and all that. But you're just not going to get a lot of big stuff happening when everybody's at home.
Yeah, no, it's not the
Watch some football. Just
if
watch
you
some.
have money, you're not trading. That's always been my thesis on that.
Yeah.
No reason to trade that day. The only time, just because it's really good, that I do trade is the week between Christmas and New Year. But
Mhm.
other than that, the holidays just leave them alone. I'm same with Fourth of July. There's just a few holidays you just kind of leave alone. A few days after New Year's usually isn't good.
Yeah.
And you do learn that in the long run. You just kind of learn that in the long run. But Black Friday for me kind of off limits. I won't. I mean, I'll have my phone on me, but I won't be here. I won't be trading. Um,
Yeah.
that's for sure. We'll come back later, do read the room that night, but that's about it.
Yeah.
All right, ready to get to work, Pete?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.